Hello, and welcome back to another episode of CWO.digital, where we're continuing our deep dive into the weighty subject of honesty in marketing. Today on the podcast, I'm in the company of not one but two fabulous guests, both from IT infrastructure giants Kyndryl.
My name is MariCarmen Andrew, Espinosa, the Chief Marketing Officer for Kyndryl UK and Ireland.
Andrew Fitzgerald, Vice President for Account-Based Marketing at Kyndryl.
I'm curious not only about the exterior measure of how much audiences do and do not trust marketing messages, but also in what it means to foster a marketing practice that is truly honest. Honest about what we hope to achieve and how well we are achieving that. It's a big subject, but thankfully, these two guests are both brimming over with equally big ideas. And so, MariCarmen and Andrew, welcome both of you to CWO.digital. Thank you both so much for joining us on the show. I'm going to start with a bit of a question looking back at how we have reached this point in the marketing landscape, because it does seem like over the last decade or so, marketing has come to develop a little bit of a negative reputation among the general public. So maybe starting with you, MariCarmen, why do you think that is, and how can we rehabilitate the sentiment around marketing?
That's a very interesting question. And I think, for organizations who wants to be in, who are betting for the long time in terms of they want to be in business for the long time, there is really an imperative to build those strong relationships that are going to last based on trust. So I think there are some examples of organizations who haven't been maybe as honest and, they are kind of not lasting long, they are kind of running out of business. So I think building trusted relationships with customers is really key for the success of the long term.
Yes, I completely agree. It does seem to kind of come down to trust, and that's been eroded a little bit over time. Andrew, what do you think is the most valuable measure of trust in brands? How can we begin to know whether or not our brands are even trusted? And is that even the thing we should be measuring?
Yeah, very good question. Just on the more general point, maybe trust in marketing has eroded, but I think trust generally is something that has eroded not just in marketing, in brands generally, in politicians in society. So it's something that I think as a society we should really be quite worried about. But from a brand perspective, the ultimate measure, of course, is it's the money that our customers give us, entrust us with, and the value that we provide for them. And the way we think about it, certainly in the organization that MariCarmen and I work for in a business-to-business world, is we're in this for the long term. We're in this for sustained growth and to be able to serve our customers. We have relationships with our customers stretching back over decades in many instances, and you don't do that without a sense of trust. So there are lots of things that we use to measure it. We look at NPS, we do customer surveys, we run reputation surveys and so on. So there are lots of ways of doing it, but the ultimate measure, the money they entrust with us and the fact that they come back and continue to invest their money in our relationship and the services that we provide for them.
I think totally agree with what Andrew is saying. In Kyndryl, we are also asking our customers and prospects, what do they think about our brand? How familiar they are with it? Would they recommend it? So we ask a number of questions to help us understand what is the strength of our brand. But also we ask them, how much do they trust us as well as a brand? And at the end of the day, we're a services company. Our people is our biggest asset, really. And we need to build that trust on our day-to-day relationships with our customers to be able to be successful. So I think, that measuring that trust by asking our customers and prospects how much do they trust us, I think is the right question and the right way to measure.
Yes, I completely agree. And it also works both ways, doesn't it? Because on the subject of trust and speaking to our customers and our people, there isn't any getting around the fact that we're in a new age of, I suppose, reduced visibility, really. There's increased online privacy, third-party data indicators are going the way of the dinosaurs. So when we're kind of asking our audiences and our customers to trust in us, we're also potentially asking them to give us some information as part of that trust exchange that they might not always be willing to give up. In this current climate, how well can we even know our audience anymore?
Well, I think, let me jump in on that one, because MariCarmen started there to talk about our people, our employees, and how important they are in delivering on the promise that we make as a brand and as a business. And I think that's really important here as well, because a business like Kyndryl, where we have tens of thousands of people who are working with our customers every day, are a huge source of information and understanding about our customers. So I think it's quite tempting as marketers to think about things like, the death of cookies is something that really impacts our ability. Yeah, on the one hand, it does, but I think we need to think about this much more holistically. How do we tap into all the other information that's available about our customers? This is not just about what they engage with online and how willing they are to give us their name and permission to work with them. We use lots and lots of different sources of data to understand our customers, to understand what's going on in very complicated IT environments that any big corporation or big organization has to work with these days. So we invest in lots of data and trying to derive the insight from that data there, all the way through to, we have people who are talking to our customers every day, lots of people, with lots of different people in the organization, and how do we tap into that and use that to build out our understanding of customers. So this isn't just about, whether somebody's prepared to give you their name and contact details in return for a bit of content perhaps, or whether we're able to use cookies. I think you need to think about this in a much more holistic manner.
And to add as well to what Andrew is saying, I think, how can we really get to know our audience? I think it's all about stepping in our customers' shoes and being the voice of the customer, really. So, we have NPS, Net Promoter Score, is how we measure the customer satisfaction and how likely they are to recommend us. And it's a great source as well to understand, what our customers are expecting from us, what we are doing well, what we can do better. And having that kind of customer advocacy. So from a marketing point of view, in Kyndryl, we are heavily investing in account-based marketing, and to run an account-based marketing one-to-one program, it's all about understanding your customer needs, the customer strategy, doing that deep understanding of the customer, what are their objectives, and that. Yeah, and really becoming the voice of the customer when we are working with the account teams. So, yes, there is a lot of data tools that we use, but at the end of the day, it's about really understanding who are our key stakeholders in the customer, what are their needs, their challenges, and really understand how Kyndryl, how our company can help them. So it's that being that voice of the customer and have that deep understanding of our customers.
And that you spark off another thought there, MariCarmen, which is, I think there's something about a service orientation, a service mindset that organizations like ours need. I think it's one of the things that's maybe unique about organizations like ours in our kind of space that we're there to provide a service. You can't be successful without a strong customer focus, customer orientation, without a realization that our job is to make our customers successful. Our job as a business and as a marketing team is not to shift product. Our job is to help our customers to be successful, and that having that trust is so integral to it, and having the understanding of our customers and what they're trying to do is so important to that. I think it helps to inform things right across the organization, not just in marketing and not just in the traditional, if that's the right word, marketing data that we maybe relied on.
I completely agree, Andrew. Yes, that kind of that mindset really does need to be at the core of everything that we do across the whole company. It really needs to be our purpose, I suppose, to use rather a grand word. Do you have any advice, either of you, for anyone listening to this podcast who might be trying to foster that sort of mindset within their organization, maybe not seeing the success that they'd like? What would you offer as some tips for anyone listening?
So I think culture plays a very big part in how to create that environment where you are serving with trust and transparency. And looking at our own experience, so Kyndryl was born nearly 3 years ago as a spin-off of IBM. We are the largest startup in the world, but I think what makes us interesting is that we have 30 years of legacy in this kind of infrastructure space. So we are kind of the trusted operator of many organizations who keep the world moving, from banks to airlines to retail companies to car manufacturers. And being the trusted operator for our customers, we have a huge responsibility to keep their operations up and running every day. So when we became an independent company, one of the key things that we set up ourselves is how do we build the culture of a services organization that has the people really at the core, right? So our ambition as a company is to become the employer of choice, because we know if we are the employer of choice, our employees will be happy and they will deliver better to our customers. And if we deliver better to our customers, we will become the partner of choice for our customers. If we are the partner of choice for our customers, we will become the choice for our investors. So everything starts really with our people, and with that culture becomes very important. I think there is another piece about how do you can enable a culture of a growth mindset culture in your organization. And I think for me, there are three kind of key elements when I think about growth mindset. I think the first one is to create an environment where people can fail fast, can learn from that kind of failure, share very important, and move on. And by that I mean, it's okay to fail, but when somebody fail in a team, we need to make sure that we spend some time reflecting and learning from that experience, and really think, what would you do different next time? And I think the sharing piece is very important for me, because if we share, then not all of us need to go through the same experience. We can live the experience through others and then learn from it. And I think we do that quite well in Kyndryl, as we have a global community of marketeers, and we really foster that sharing. So that's kind of the first point about a growth mindset. The second one is about coaching, and I think looking at every conversation with a person can be a coaching conversation. It's a way of driving that kind of entrepreneurship in a team. Instead of telling the team what to do, ask them open questions so they feel they are in charge of their own destiny. I think it works for me as well. And then the third point is about prioritizing. So, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you don't have time. So it's about agreeing as a team, what are the priorities? What do we say no to? And saying no feels very uncomfortable sometimes, but I think it allows you to focus on what really matters. And it's going to have more impact in the business.
Completely agree with what MariCarmen was saying there. And I think life as a spin-off is really interesting because, as MariCarmen said, you have all that long legacy, and we came from a company with a very strong culture of its own, and so therefore trying to build something that's different and right for us as a business is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to do and to live up to.
Our culture in Kyndryl, we call it the Kyndryl way, and it's all about being restless, empathetic, and devoted. And this is how we have set up ourselves to engage with each other. And I want to kind of deep down on the empathetic piece, because being empathetic is about serving with trust and transparency with our teams, with our colleagues, with our customers, and with our communities. And I think that makes a huge difference in the sense of how we all work together and understanding each other and really bringing our true selves to work as well.
So important to have something that's clear in terms of what you're trying to build. And I was in a meeting with a bunch of our customers a little while ago where we were talking about this notion of culture and the importance of it. And one of the things that's really heartening for us is that, hey, we're not perfect and we don't always show up as we want to every time and for every customer. But what we get back from our customers tell us they see us showing up differently and behaving differently and behaving more like the kind of organization that we want to become. And of course, that plays right back into the topic we're talking about here of trust. Again, in a services, in a people-based business, so important that you show up in line with the culture and the spirit and the ethos that you're trying to create, because it helps to foster trust. And that's we don't think about trust as something that is a marketing issue. This is about trust in us as a business, and that has to pervade again right across the organization, which is why something like this idea of the Kyndryl way is so important to us.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, great note. I really agree with you completely. Trust is the core resource, and it does sound like the Kyndryl way is an excellent example of that. Do either of you have any more, I suppose, anecdotes of how that might manifest itself within your teams? Any times you've seen the Kyndryl way in action?
Well, I've got a one that's very fresh in the memory. Because literally it's just happened. We just had the CrowdStrike incident, which took out a huge chunk of organizations' infrastructure around the world through no fault of their own. That plays right into the kind of thing that we do. We run organizations' IT infrastructures for them. And so our customers were hugely impacted by that. Recovering from something like that incident is hugely important for companies and for the trust that they're able to build. And coming back to this notion of the Kyndryl way and being devoted to shared success. You know what? Our instinct as an organization is we will work with you to help fix the challenge that you've got and recover from the impact of something like CrowdStrike. Our delivery teams spent thousands and thousands of man hours to help our customers recover from that. We'll worry about whether that's part of our existing contract or not. but again, it's just part of that trust and that, devotion to helping our customers to be successful. That is a very recent example that kind of showcased what we want to do as an organization and how we want to show up for customers as well. And many of our customers really badly impacted by that. But the vast majority of them, we were able to turn around and fix and get them back to where they needed to be really pretty quickly.
Fantastic. MariCarmen, how about you? Do you have anything more to say on the Kyndryl way and times you've seen it in action?
So I want to focus more on the restless. So restless is all about continuously anticipate, learn, and innovate. And I want to bring an example in terms of the culture I'm creating in the marketing team within my team about providing feedback. And so, we're working with the team to make sure that everybody feels comfortable to ask for feedback, and it's not about taking it personally, but it's about how can you make things better. There is this notion of progress every day that I really embrace, and we are embracing that in Kyndryl about trying to make things better every day versus trying to make things perfect. Perfect can be the enemy of progress. So I think this notion of making incremental improvements every day is much more efficient and more rewarding than trying to make things perfect, because what is perfection is something really subjective, and I don't think there is a also perfection change over time. What is perfect today might not be fit for purpose tomorrow. So I think that's an example of being restless and continuously learn, improve, and innovate that we are really driving in Kyndryl, and in particular in the marketing team.
And you make me think of something that's very much about trust, as you're talking about that, MariCarmen, which and kind of very marketing specific as well in some ways. So the it's not just, of course, about our organization and our relationship with our customers and the wider public, I suppose. But there's also something about marketing's trust within the business itself. And this thing about, how do we be transparent and open and have a growth mindset to figure out how we get better. And that applies to marketing's relationship with the business as well as, within the marketing function or within the business itself. Because I think I've seen in many places a tendency for marketing to want to say everything's great, put a positive spin. And that, I see it in the focus on things like, delivering leads to salespeople and the whole idea of MQLs and that kind of thing. There needs to be honest and open conversations with our stakeholders outside of marketing within the broader businesses that we serve as well. And I've seen instances where marketing teams will say, "Hey, everything's great. We've exceeded our lead targets. Aren't we doing fantastic?" in a business context where the business is not managing to grow in the way it wants to. So I think this notion of growth mindset and candor and figuring out how we do better is really important for that relationship as well, because the goal of a business is not to grow its pipeline or to deliver lots of new leads. It's to win new business and grow revenues and achieve those kind of goals. So marketing needs to be thinking about how we play in that context in a different way to many of the conversations that happen across many of the businesses we work in, I think.
Yes, clearly, very much so. And as we then take that thinking and look ahead, if you could both cast your minds forward to perhaps 10 years, how do you feel your jobs and the challenge and basically the marketing space in general will be different 10 years from now?
10 years is an awful long time in marketing, and particularly in a technology space. That's I think anybody that thinks they really know the answer to that is probably not to be trusted. Would be my take. But I think, hey, to pick up on the thing that everybody has been talking about for some time now and continues to be a really hot topic, AI, of course, which lots of us are experimenting with, and I think we're in the very early days of understanding AI, understanding what it can do for us from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, and society in general. So I have no doubt that AI is going to become absolutely pervasive, across what we do and how we work and how we live. Somebody made the comment just in a conversation yesterday that really trying to understand what we're doing around AI. Most organizations are struggling with, but you know what? 10 years ago, we were just probably beginning to get to grips with the worlds of cloud and what it meant and how we would work in that kind of environment. So I've no doubt we're going to see AI much more pervasive than it has been. But the other thing that, and again, I'm kind of, thinking about that CrowdStrike example I gave earlier, and maybe a slightly more general point that, but again, trust related. It's the idea of resiliency in businesses and in society. And you know what? We're increasingly reliant on AI and cloud and technology in general to be able to live the kind of lives we want to live. And when something like CrowdStrike happens, or a malicious attack on an organization, the ability to recover, I think, is something that's underappreciated today and needs to be something that we figure out how to do better as we go into the future. Because, this time around, we managed to recover reasonably well, and it wasn't something malicious, perhaps. But the consequences of this kind of thing and the increasing likelihood of the kind of challenges that we saw just with that CrowdStrike incident last week, that's something that I think we need to figure out and get much more effective at. And organizations will need to pay a lot more attention to, I think.
I think AI will definitely be pervasive across all industries, all type of jobs, and probably will be kind of established. I do wonder, though, if people, consumers, customers will be seeking more authenticity, and if AI will be providing that, or we will be still, maybe we are not even able to differentiate and identify what is coming from AI or not. So that's a thought. I think from a business point of view, just looking at Kyndryl and where we are in our business journey. So today we are the trusted, as I was saying earlier, partner for our customers in the operation side. And our ambition is to become the trusted partner for digital transformation. So I envision that in 10 years we will be there and our customers will be partnering with us on their digital transformation journey.
Exciting times ahead. Thank you both so much, MariCarmen and Andrew. We're nearly up on our time together today, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything that you want to say to our listeners?
I find really fascinating this the trust equation coming from Thomas Parta, who is a guru in leadership marketing. And the trust equation is professionalism times intimacy divided by ego. So let me take you through each one of the elements. When we are talking about professionalism, it's about two things. One is the knowledge. So most of us get hired because of our knowledge. And one of the things that is important to consider as part of this kind of knowledge element is that you don't have to claim you know everything. So you need to be, if you don't know anything, you should be open and said, good question. Let me think about it. I don't have an answer now. The second element from that professionalism is to be a role model. And that's things like being on time, keeping your promises, meeting deadlines. And if you get things wrong, because you do, to apologize and recognize you've made a mistake. So that's knowledge and role model are part of the professionalism element. So the second element is intimacy. And this is really about, for trust, it's really important to get others to get to know you as a person. So it's about sharing things about yourself, because you could be like the best professional in the world, but if people don't know you as a person, it's quite difficult to build that trust. So it's about bringing yourself, your true self to work, but also help other team members to bring themselves to work. So it's about creating that open environment where people can be themselves. And sometimes it's about showing your vulnerabilities as well, show where you are weak and ask for help. And as a leader, you need to open yourself first so you can create that environment. And then the last element of the formula is the ego, which, if you want to destroy all your trust, have a great ego. So this is something that all of us need to tame. And some examples of how you do that is, letting other people to present first at meetings, pass the praise that you get to your team. And it's basically to make sure that you let others shine, that it's not about you. So I found this the first time I came across this formula. I thought that was a very, very interesting way of looking at the trust, this trust equation. And yeah, I think it's something that has made me think and actually change to be more aware of my leadership style as well.
I love that trust equation idea, and in particular, I love that bit that you were saying about the ego part there. It's not about us. It's about our teams. It's about the stakeholders we serve, and as businesses, it's about the customers we serve, and how do we help to make them successful. We can't be successful without those things, and that idea of devotion to shared success, because success for us as a business is about helping our customers to be successful. And I think that's a really nice way to finish the conversation.
Well, thank you both, Andrew and MariCarmen, for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I'd like to thank MariCarmen and Andrew again for joining us on the show, and thanks to you for listening. You can find more episodes of CWO.digital wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thanks again.